Hello, my internet chums. This is Dan here from Blotworks. So it's not quite so sunny today, but still nice and fresh, which is particularly good for our frog, who's been through a pretty hard time recently. He's had at least three of his froggy mates die mysteriously of some illness, all in the space of a couple of weeks, which is pretty traumatic for all of us, but especially our frog. So we're hoping that isn't some sort of weird coronavirus mutation, which may be a whole new episode in this thing that's going on. But you'll be glad to know that my hair experiment, my self-cleaning hair experiment, is going well. I'm about 10 days into it now. I'm trying to break the cycle, the 2-day cycle of washing it and going crazy Hollywood Jesus into and fly away crazy into sort of, have you ever watched Game of Thrones, that kind of White Walker, just dug up the dead kind of look. So I'm sort of just, it's the only chance, this coronavirus is the only chance we get of really testing out these kind of theories, because you don't see anybody else apart from poor Hannah, who I think has had enough of it already. So this is part 6 of my new workshop musings video series of designing a new lamp. So in this one we're starting with some exciting news, which is all the shapes, the aluminium shapes have come back from the waterjet cutters, which is very fabulous and exciting. So I've ordered parts for, you've seen some of the shapes, if you've been watching some of the previous videos you would have seen the 5 different shapes I've got already. So I've kind of got parts for making one of each, 2 sizes, small and big, of each of the 5 shapes. So for instance, this is a very simple one, so that's 2 of those. This is a small one of the simple pillar design, so they will bolt together and do that. So this is 5mm aluminium, and that's the bigger version of that. So this is a time where you can start playing around with, get a sense of real world scale. Looking at things on the computer, it does an awful lot of stuff, and you can sort of whiz around it in 3D, but it's not until you get the physical parts in front of you that you kind of get a sense of the scale of things. So I've got parts for, this is a skier, this is a big skier, so I've got the 2 parts for that. I've actually put the small parts into this prototype that we've been looking at recently. So this is a good example of why the scale seems slightly odd having seen it on the computer. So I'm going to have to play around with some of the parts of that and the width of them, the gap between them, all that kind of stuff. But it's exciting to get to this stage because you start to see the real thing taking place in front of you. So I've got those, I've got the, this is the oil rig shape. And the great thing about getting them cut rather than cutting them by hand is they're absolutely bob on, providing you've got the drawings right. So that's the bigger shape, so that's kind of the size of the bigger lamp. And that'll have the, this light bulb thing coming out there. And then we've got the big, so we've got the spiral shapes, the small spiral shape, big spiral shape, and then the super spirally shape, the what do you call it, sort of the golden ratio natural spiral, small and big. So that's brilliant. We've also had, actually let's talk about waterjet cutting. So these have been waterjet cut, so the beautiful thing about that is you get this lovely kind of sparkly, slightly rough, but very sort of clean finish to it. Like I say, it's almost like a sparkle to it. This is waterjet cut. So for those of you who aren't familiar with these sort of processes, waterjet cutting uses a high pressure jet of water containing grit. So it's not just water; it's water and grit cutting, and it blasts that jet at the material, which basically wears it away, and it cuts it out, following computer controlled jet head. So which is really good. It can be quite slow on some materials on the and it's obviously not great if you're trying to cut something that can't get wet, for instance, but otherwise it's a really nice process, and it works perfectly for the sort of thing that I use, which is typically 4 or 5mm aluminium sheet. The other process I use quite a lot for doing this sort of thing is laser jet cutting, which unsurprisingly uses a laser to do the cutting, and the same thing, it just blasts a laser at the material, which obviously is a sort of heat process as much as anything, and it can be a lot faster than waterjet cutting, but it obviously can either scorch or melt the material. So there's issues there depending on what material you're using, and the thickness and that kind of thing. It's also not great on reflective materials like brass or copper, for instance. It's possible, but it's not so great. So so these are done by Waterjet UK in Halifax. They're great. Let's have a little. So, oh yeah, the other thing I've got, just look at my little list of things here. The other thing I've got is, in the last couple of days, is the brass bars. I've had to order some extra brass. I've got quite a lot here, but this is a super chunky, heavy stuff, which I'm going to be using for the counterweight. So on the weights here, I don't know if you can see that. And I've got, it's just beautiful, solid stuff. This is like proper, look at that. It's proper old world engineering. So that's just solid brass bar, very heavy. And that will be used for the bob weight at the bottom of the what's it. So just to quickly go through materials here, just so you've got an idea of material choices. This bottom part is birch ply, so it's birch. This here at the moment is birch. That's just a solid birch sphere, but that may change. We'll probably use stainless steel for this upright here, brass for all the weights, counterweight and bob weight. This will probably be aluminium tube to keep it light at the top, and this here obviously is aluminium, as I've been showing you. So that's kind of the material. The next job is to clean it all up, so taking each one of these, and with the application of something like this, I'll be cleaning all the edges by hand, just to round everything off, and getting rid of any little knobbles or bits and bobs on them, and clean the surface probably with a orbital sander or something like that, just to make sure there's no scratches or anything like that, and to get a nice kind of slightly scratchy surface before it then gets etched, before it gets anodized at the anodizer. So all of these parts will be going to the anodizers in the next few days. While I wait for those to come back from the anodizers, I'll be getting on with making the other parts, so using the brass, making the wooden rockers, turning the various bits and pieces, the bearing and stuff, getting ready for when they come back. So they'll come back hopefully that beautiful hard anodized look, which I have got over here, which is your sort of the classic Blockworks looks. This is hard anodized. It's super tough, but it's also beautiful gunmetal grey, which works perfectly, I think, with the woods and the brass. So I think that's about all for now. So please leave any comments below. Just say hello, or what you're on about, mate. Whatever you want to say, just say something. It's always nice to hear from people and know that people are watching and know what they think. So I'll leave it there. So thank you very much for listening. Speak to you soon, and don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, my new YouTube channel. I got my first real subscriber today, so it's growing at a rapid rate. So get in there while it's still, personal. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye.